With the most recent changes to Sturm, Bungie has given us an entirely new weapon to synergize with one of our oldest exotics, that being a weapon called Unfall. Somebody's actually brought it up in my comments and said, Cross, it's actually Unfall, stating that it's a German word meaning accident. So to my fellow Germans, I shall continue calling this Unfall. It sounds way cooler than Unfall. Unfall, though, is our second ever Arc Rocket Assisted Sidearm, which may not be that big of a deal to you, but considering that Indebted Kindness didn't return to us as a tiered weapon, this is the next best thing. But it's being present in that Together Forever frame that sets this weapon apart. It reads that it fires self-propelled micro missiles that explode on impact for high damage, and final blows with this weapon reloads and overflows a bonus damage round into Sturm. And let me just say, for the most part, no one is using Sturm as intended right now. Yes, it's been disabled from trials, but inside of PvE, Sturm is currently busted as it's providing 360% more damage to our abilities, simply for having an overcharged round to Sturm and holding it in your hands. Again, luckily Bungie has only disabled it inside of trials, but I don't know how long we have for PvE. But Sturm is really not the focus of today's review. The focus is Unfall here. It's a special rocket assisted sidearm that can secure kills faster than that of Drain. It has a variety of great synergistic perks. We have artifact mods that boost micro missiles, which yes, also apply here to Unfall. And even more importantly, this fills that void that Indebted Kindness has left wide open, as it's not just another Arc Rocket Assisted Sidearm, it also has access to temporal mods. Now, part of the rework that Sturm received is that rapid kills with Together Forever weapons within 3 seconds of each other now load extra Sturm overcharge shots. But when using a primary ammo Together Forever weapon, this loads more shots compared to a special. Now here on Unfall, just a single kill loads 1 shot per usual. But then when getting 2 rapid kills within 3 seconds, this loads 3 shots instead. 3 rapid kills will load 6 shots, 4 rapid kills will load 9 shots. This is a very good change, by the way, for Sturm, as you can essentially get multiple overcharged shots very quickly. Now for primary ammo weapons, they do load more overcharged shots. Testing our Drain here, just 2 rapid kills loads 4 shots, 3 rapid kills loads 9 shots. So you can definitely see your primary does exceed your special in giving you more overcharged shots, but it is all about how easily you can secure those kills. Unfall can definitely pull that off. Being a rocket sidearm, it does chunkier damage, allowing us to secure those kills with more ease. Now, something else that was mentioned in the patch notes is that Sturm's exotic trait, Accomplice, was updated so that final blows with Sturm overcharge shots now also increase the magazine size of Together Forever weapons until death, capped at 100% of the base magazine. So what this means is that you're going to use Unfall to load overcharged shots in Sturm. Then you can use those Sturm shots to get kills, which will overflow Unfall until you die. So as you can see here, 100% of our base mag is 22 shots, which now becomes our permanent mag size until death. Again, no one's really paying attention to this because Sturm right now is absolutely busted and it's buffing our ability damage, and for good reason. You should all be using ability-based builds. But when this finally does get fixed, I want you to really look at Sturm and Unfall together. The synergy here really is beautiful. Now, with Sturm's interaction out of the way, let's talk perks that are present on Unfall. In column 3, we have Reverberation, Impulse Amplifier, Lead from Gold, Sleight of Hand, Beacon Rounds, and Disruption Break. In column 4, we have Rolling Storm, Jolting Feedback, Deconstruct, One for All, Binary Orbit, and Master of Arms. Now, right away, when looking at this weapon, the role that you've probably picked up on immediately is Lead from Gold and Jolting Feedback. This is almost the exact same god roll that Indebted Kindness had, except Indebted Kindness had bolt shots, which is a bit easier to proc, especially against red bar enemies. Now, looking at column 3, I do think that Lead from Gold is by far the best option. Ammo economy is really good. Every time you pick up heavy ammo, this will then grant you special ammo, and it's roughly 35% of your maximum special ammo reserves per heavy ammo pickup with the enhanced version of this perk. Of course, though, if you are running double special, the amount of ammo you pick up per brick is then cut in half. But it is a great perk if you are going to run double special. It essentially gives you 2 sources of special ammo, and it makes running the sidearm like a primary that much easier. But there are other options, though, in that third column that are very good. Disruption Break is fantastic for granting your kinetic weapons 50% increase in damage for 5.5 seconds, which again works beautifully for Sturm here, as that's a kinetic weapon. We don't have anti-barrier sidearm this season, but in the future season, you could definitely take advantage of that. Break a barrier champion shield, and then follow up with the 50% increase in damage from your kinetic, which if it's Sturm being overcharged, would do a tremendous amount of damage. Now you have Beacon Rounds and Reverberation, which essentially adds ease of use to getting those kills. You have Impulse Amplifier, as well as Sleight of Hand for that increase in reload speed, and for Impulse Amplifier specifically velocity. One of my most used Indebted Kindness was actually actually an Impulse Amplifier role. And granted, at one time, I would say Impulse Amplifier wasn't needed, but since Bungie has really toned back some of the ease of use of these Rocket Assisted Sidearms, having that extra velocity does help. And keep in mind, it's still a projectile weapon, it's not hit scan, but Impulse does help with that ease of use, on top of the reload buff. Now, Sleight of Hand is also an interesting option because this is the first time the perk has appeared outside of the Vow of Disciple weapons. The perk reads that final blows of the weapon or abilities while this weapon is stowed increases its handling, its stability, and its reload speed. Now, with the enhanced version of this perk, that allows it to last for 8.5 seconds, and it stacks up to 3 times. So for instance, times 1 gives us plus 10 stability, plus 10 handling, and plus 10 reload. Times 2 goes up to plus 20. Times 3 goes up to plus 30. So lots of pretty good options here, guys. Lead from gold is probably going to be the way most people go, but a lot of good things everywhere else nonetheless. But this takes us to our 4th column. Jolting Feedback is really the perk we wanted to look at first. And luckily, we landed a tier 5 right out the gate with just this perk. This perk rates that dealing repeated damage with this weapon inflicts jolts. And while amplified, jolt is applied faster. Now, when we test this with the enhanced version of this perk, it takes 4 shots to start jolting targets, giving us an extra 119 damage. Now, when you're amplified, the amount of shots it takes to proc jolting is only 3, which is substantially better. Keep in mind, this weapon does a pretty good bit of damage, and you may be in a situation where if you're playing at like easier deltas, you'll kill the red bars before you ever proc Jolting Feedback. Now, one of the great parts about this perk though, is that it doesn't need to be damaged on a single target. You can shoot multiple targets and still proc the perk. So keep that in mind, guys. Even if you're at level content, you can just simply spread your shots around to proc Jolting Feedback. Now, one thing we wanted to know regarding Jolting Feedback was whether or not kills from the jolts would overcharge Sturm. At least from our testing, this did not work, which is unfortunate. You would think some AoE damage being splashed in there and still securing the kill would still net us more Sturm overcharge shots. Now, in the past, Indebted Kindness was probably one of my most used weapons. Now, at one point, I think it was like the #1 PV weapon in the game. And that's primarily because it did a lot of damage and it had bolt shots. It was an ad clearing monster. I think in a 1-to-1 comparison, I do prefer Indebted Kindness in at level or maybe even like -10 content, maybe -20, simply because I can just proc bolt shot back to back with no problem. It's when you start to get into those higher deltas that Jolting Feedback becomes more beneficial because you're just not securing that many kills. You've got meteor targets in front of you that you have to really blow your load into, which means for a perk like Bolt Shot, you just don't have a lot of uptime. Whereas Jolting Feedback, you can actually get something going there that can assist you in securing that kill. Now, another arc perk though that is present on this weapon is Rolling Storm. This reads that final blows grant bolt charge, while amplified, final blows grant additional bolt charge. Now, if you have the enhanced version, you're going to gain increased bolt charge stacks when you have none. I don't know if anyone even remembers Cycle Pump anymore. What a great grenade launcher, right? A huge contributor to that was, of course, Rolling Storm. Now, testing the enhanced version of this perk on Unfall, when you have no bolt charge stacks, your first kill is going to give you 3 stacks of bolt charge, with the rest of your kills just giving 1 stack like normal. Then when you're amplified, the first kill is going to grant 4 stacks of bolt charge, with the rest of your kills granting 2 stacks per kill, which makes getting to max stacks insanely fast. Now, just like Jolting Feedback, we wanted to know if there was any synergy with bolt charge and Sturm. Unfortunately, at least from our testing, there is none. Now, let me just say I love bolt charge, and it was especially good during Heresy, but we're really not in an arc-focused environment. And keep in mind, back then, we had an artifact mod that was boosting bolt charge damage. I'm not saying bolt charge isn't still good. I use it in a variety of different DPS phases, and if we ever get flashover back, I'm full sending anything that does bolt charge damage. But for the time being, Rolling Storm, especially for me, is kind of falling off. Now, if you're someone that prefers just damage, you don't care about the arc theatrics, well, you do have one for all. This is going to give you a flat 35% increase in damage after hitting 3 separate targets, which is a very easy thing to do here. This lasts for 11 seconds with the enhanced version, and I actually prefer this perk over Master of Arms and Binary Orbits. I know they also provide a damage buff, but one for all is just such an easy thing to proc. Now, Deconstruct is also present on here, and I gotta bring up Deconstruct, man. Everybody overlooks this trait until a Thresher shows up and messes you and your fire team up. Deconstruct gives you 40% more damage against constructs and vehicles. And there's a lot of things that fall within that threshold. Threshers being one of them, Briggs being another. And keep in mind, Deconstruct refills your magazine upon scoring multiple hits. This is why my vault is full, guys. I keep Deconstruct weapons. I do. I'm waiting for the day where we have an all-vehicle raid, and Deconstruct is the meta perk that carries me. So It's a good chance it'll probably be bugged and it won't even proc. Now, in terms of our origin traits, we've got Vanguard Determination. After using your class ability, final blows with this weapon grant you bonus damage resistance. Upon scoring a weapon kill within 20 seconds of using your class ability, this is going to grant 1 stack of Vanguard's Determination for 10 seconds, or 12.5 seconds when enhanced. Now, a single stack of this is going to grant 2% damage resist, and 2 stacks will give you 4% damage resist. 3 will give you a whopping 6% damage resist, so a little extra survivability. Now, when we reviewed Return to Memory, this is another Rocket Assisted Sidearm that we absolutely love. The solar synergy on it is amazing, and one of the biggest factors, though, that contributed to that weapon being so good was Temporal Blast. However, with Ash and Iron, Temporal Blast has received a massive nerf. It no longer gains progress on splash damage here, and they've reduced the blast damage impulse. The question is Temporal Blast even worth using on Unfall? First, I want to take it back to when we looked at it on Return to Memory. Previously, Temporal Blast damage at base would deal 422 damage and took 4 shots to proc, with 5 shots being able to deal the Temporal Blast damage. Now, testing this on Unfall post-nerf, at base, we're now dealing 331 damage, which isn't terrible, but it is a drop-off. It also now takes 6 crits to proc, with the 7-shot unloading the blast. Or if you're just going for body shots, it takes 7 shots to prime it, with the 8-shot dealing the blast. And unlike Return Memory, we don't really have a whole lot here that can really buff up Temporal Blast. Again, this is a very damage-dependent mod. In our testing, the jolt damage from Jolting Feedback didn't seem to give us stacks. We don't have origin traits like Tenacity that buffs our damage up, but the only thing we can really do is proc perks like One for All, or just utilize a high weapon stance. What we did find, at least, is that a kill from Temporal can provide overcharged shots for Sturm. What we have discovered, though, is that Temporal Armaments really is just outperforming Temporal Blast in pretty much all areas of the game that involve Vex and Cabal. And then in everything else, rock Temporal Blast. Armaments just gives you a flat 17% damage buff with the enhanced version of this mod, which is just too good, especially considering how many Vex enemies you have to deal with in things like the Desert Perpetual Raid, with the Epic Raid just right around the corner. Now, this takes us to what I deem is the god roll on this weapon. In my opinion, guys, Lead from Gold in that 3rd column, with maybe Disruption Break for that Sturm synergy as a swap off, and perhaps even Impulse Amplifier. Then in columns 4, I like Jolting Feedback, One for All, and who knows, maybe we can roll with Rolling Storm. For the most part, that would be my god roll for the tier 5 version of this sidearm. In terms of magazine size, I would recommend Tactical Mag or Pendant Mag to give you a higher mag size to better take advantage of Jolting Feedback. Now, we tested a variety of magazines here, and there didn't seem to be anything that gave significantly more reserves over another. The max I was able to get to would be 42 shots total. For our barrel, quick launch would be good for the increase in velocity and handling, which is pretty much what I lean into. I like things that can boost that velocity to get my shot to the target as quickly as it can. With all that being said, guys, would I recommend Unfall over Indebted Kindness? If you got the tier 5 version, yeah, Temporal mods are just too good. On top of Bungie just leaning into featured weapons. And keep in mind, Indebted Kindness is not a featured weapon, so you can't even bring it in touche environments. What I would say, though, is I don't think that Unfall completely outperforms Indebted Kindness. So I wouldn't look at this as an upgrade, more of a side grade, because if Indebted Kindness dropped today from the dungeon layers as a tiered weapon, you could bet your booty, man, we would be farming the piss out of it. But for what Unfall serves as, it's a great weapon to synergize with Sturm. We've got artifact mods like Reciprocal Draw and Unstoppable Sidearm this season, which will let you stun both Unstoppable and Overload champions if you're running Jolting Feedback. And considering that this weapon is coded as a micro missile weapon, it can also take advantage of energy acceleration, giving you an extra bit of AoE damage from that kinetic shockwave. For those that are trying to farm this weapon, again, you can get A+ in the reclaim activities to get a chance of getting a tier 5 of this, or you could just wait until this weapon is in rotation in Fireteam Ops as a featured weapon for a given day. For instance, we had Inside Terminus, which is a very quick strike, and it had Unfall as its featured weapon. So guys, let me know in the comments below what you think. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.